The papers I'm using are from First Edition's Making Memories paper pad. I have American craft cardstock here, as well as a length of baker's twine. I'll give you the measurements for the mats and the cardstock as we come to them. The cardstock for the box itself, the main gift box, measures 12 by 9.5 inches. And on the 12-inch side, you want to score at 1 inch, at 3.5 inches, 6 inches, 8.5, and 11. And then turn it to the 9.5-inch side and score at 2.5 inches and at 7 inches. And then for the pop out, this measures just under 5 inches, so between 4 7/8 and 5 inches by 9 3/8 inches. So score on the longest side at 2.5 and 6 7/8, and on the short side at 2.5 inches. As you see here, I'm marking with my pencil the letter B for base, so that I know which bit is the base. That's the one on the right side there, the skinnier piece. It's just about 1/8 or 1/16 of an inch smaller than the other side. So I just want to keep that in mind. Okay, I'm actually just folding and burnishing here all the score lines so that everything is nice and crisp and folds easily before I get onto the actual cutting of the boxes. And again here with the pop-up, and score down the middle there. And I'm going to take my scissors and just cut up those short ends there. So that just gets cut right to that score line, and then it will actually fold in. And as I'm pointing out there, that's where the base is. So that's where your gift will sit, and the sides will just fold up and form the box. This little piece here, which measures 2 1/4 inches by 4 1/4, is for the reinforcement, and then I have the mats for the inside of the pop-up. The mats for those measure 2 1/4 by 4 1/8 inch. And I'm putting those down first before I actually glue the pop-up together, because it's just a lot easier to do that here. And also I've got to put in the holes for the baker's twine, which will hold the little gift on the base there. So I'm taking my piercing mat here and marking where I want the holes to go. And I don't have a big bite, I only have a crocodile, so I don't really have anything that would reach all the way in there. So I'm just going to use a pokey tool and some tweezers to actually go through there, and it works actually just fine. And you'll see that later on. Like here, as I said, I'm going to just put my pokey tool through there and go in through the front and through the back as well. So I've got all my mats in place. Okay, now I'm ready to actually glue this all into place. So I'm putting my glue here on the flap that is on the base, and just making sure that those sides are square, using my bone folder to go in there and spread that glue right out to the edges of that paper. Now the other thing I want to be sure is that I've got a slope there of some kind. You could just have a straight diagonal cut, but as you see, I'm using my tape roll to mark out just a little curvature there from end to end, from point to point, are those corners. And as I said, you could just make it a diagonal cut, but this is just to help it move in and out of the opening in the gift box, so it doesn't get caught on the edges at all. As I said, it's about a 1/16 of an inch to maybe an 1/8 of an inch smaller than the box itself, the opening, so it should not have any problem, but this also makes it look good. So just take your scissors and go along that pencil line, as you see here, and what you could do is take the offcut and match it up, draw around it, and do the other side, but it really doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not really a major feature. So we finished cutting along there, and that will be the pop-up completed, and set that aside while we get the gift box glued together now. Starting at one of the ends, it doesn't matter which, where the 1-inch score line is, just cut up those score marks to that first line, and on those little tabs there, take out just a tiny little wedge, because this is where the sides are going to tuck in, so it reinforces the sides of the box. I'll turn it on its side, and as I show you here, I'm going to use my pencil to mark out the sections that you just completely cut away, so they match on either side there. So that's what's going to go away. And here is where you're going to just cut up the score lines to that first score line there on either side. And these you'll just leave completely intact. You don't need to take any wedges out of these, because these are going to fold onto the sides. Okay, now that little bit there on the end, that the square and the rectangle, are going to be removed completely. And what you're forming here is the actual lid of the box with the little flap there. That's that little 1-inch score line at the bottom. And I'm going to take my corner rounder in a little while and round that off. It's really for aesthetic reasons more than anything. It doesn't mean you have to do it. It's just, it just looks nice. And here I'm just going to go ahead and do the matting on the box while it's flat. It's just a little easier to do it at this point, but it really doesn't matter if you put the box together and then decide to do the matting later. That's fine. It makes no difference. And these pieces for the top, the front and the back all measure 2 1/4 by 4 1/4, and that little flat piece is 3/4 by 4 1/4. And this little bit here on the inside is the bottom of the box. As you look inside it, it's really just optional if you want to cover it or not. It makes no difference. I just thought it would look, rather nice if you saw that in the bottom as you lifted up the pop-up. So I put that in there. And again, it measures the same as the other matte pieces. For the front, it's 2 1/4 by 4 1/4. So I'm going to put the glue here on the side flaps here, put those together first. And as you see, the back is going to come round to that middle bit, and I'm making sure that I've got that glue right up to the edges and using my bone folder to spread it out so that it stays in place. I'm using the Collal glue. It's a silicone based glue, so it doesn't warp your paper. I don't think you can get that in the States, but I think they make something like beacon glue, which is very, very similar. I think it's 2-in-1 beacon. And the great thing about this glue is it dries rock solid. It dries clear, and once it is completely dry, it will not move. So, and it just adds to the strength of the whole project. So those are in place, and now I'm making sure that also those sides are squared up. I just run my finger along the side there just to be sure that it's all in place. And if there's any little overhang of any of the cardstock, it's really simple to fix. Just take a pair of scissors and snip off any excess. The last thing to do is to put on the end mats, which are 2 1/4 inch squares, and those will cover up the joins on the side of the box. The glue dots are just a temporary measure. I'm out of any Velcro dots or strips at the moment, so I just wanted to show how it would close, and I can replace that later when I get the Velcro. Time to attach the pop-up to the back of the gift box, and before I do that, I just decided to go ahead and put my biggest twine through. You could do this later, it doesn't matter. I just thought I'd just go ahead and do that. You could use ribbon here as well, or elastic, whatever you like, just to hold whatever your gift is going to be sitting on that base so that it doesn't fall about or rattle about. And to help me get this baker's twine through here, you'll see that I've just wrapped a little bit of tape on the ends. Use my tweezers to enlarge that hole a little bit more and push it through. And that's all there was to it. I'm going to attach the pop-up or the lift part of the gift box, applying that glue generously, as I don't want this to come up. I want it to be really solid, so I've got that glue right up to the edges, and as you can see, I'm going to center it there, leaving that little bit of overhang, which means that should slide in there rather easily. And once it's lined up, I'm going to make sure I've burnished it, got that glue to the edges, and then it will be the test. Yes, it works! Hooray! I love it! To decorate the box, I made a bow, which is the one that Sam used in her video, except that I don't have the lovely double-sided glitter paper that she has, but I just used some of the cardstock, which I cut into the 1-inch strip, or it's a 1-inch wide strip, and it's somewhere between 8 and 9 inches, something like that, for the bottom one, and for the top a little bit smaller than that. And as you can see, I used my hands and my bone folder to manipulate the paper into a circle and put it together, almost like, as Sam said, one of those little chains that you used to put on your Christmas tree when you were a child. So, paper chains. In this case though, you just push it together and form a bow, and then you can fluff it out however you like. And as you see here, I added a little flower that I found in my stash that was left over from another project, and I thought it worked really well here. I probably should have used hot glue for it, but I didn't feel like getting my gun out for that. So if it were to come off later, I can always go back and do that again. So, and I propped it up with a little bit of foam tape there, and that's it. And as you see here, I'm going to take my little gift. In this case, it's just a tape runner I had, which I thought would replicate putting a gift in there. I know that Sam used, I think she had lip glosses that she put in there. So, and it is quite strong, actually, the little box. That little base, because now it's been, you know, it's got that extra little bit of reinforcement with that cardstock, plus the extra papers, and of course the baker's twine, as you see me here wrapping around that little tape pin. And of course, if I decide to use this and to give it someone a gift, I'll replace that tape pin. I don't think anyone wants a half-used tape pin. So I think some lovely lipstick, or maybe some little tiny eye palette, eyeshadow palette, something like that would make a much better gift. But that just gives the impression, and as you can see, it works beautifully. I am so thrilled. I am so happy. And I know that Sam has other tutorials planned for this little project she came up with, some different sizes, so I'll leave a link to her channel and to her video in the description, and I encourage you to give it a look. And I thank you for sticking around with me today and putting up with this first attempt at a voiceover. I really need to get proper equipment to do that, but I thought it was better than nothing. So thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you again next video. Bye, and happy crafting.